Good morning. Good morning, everyone. And it's good to see you all here today. on this crisp autumn day with seasonal weather now. So in the past few weeks, we've been looking at this writing of Master Dogen's Mountains and Waters. And the section that I would like to talk about today is rather long, and I apologize for the long reading, but I think it has some coherence and a theme that runs through the entire section that I hate to disrupt. So I think I'll start by just reading this section. And I'll put it on the screen so that it may be helpful. Sometimes it helps to look at the words and hear them at the same time. All beings do not see mountains and waters in the same way. Some beings see water as a 16-jeweled ornament, but they do not regard jeweled ornaments as water. What in the human realm corresponds to this water? We only see their jeweled ornaments as water. Some beings see water as wondrous blossoms, but they do not use blossoms as water. Hungry ghosts see water as raging fire or pus and blood. Dragons see water as a palace or as a pavilion. Some beings see water as the 7 treasures or a wish-granting jewel. Some beings see water as a forest or a wall. Some see it as the Dharma nature of pure liberation, the true human body, or as the form of body and essence of mind. Human beings see water as water. Water is seen as dead or alive, depending on causes and conditions. Thus, the views of all beings are not the same. You should question this matter now. Are there many ways to see one thing, or is it a mistake to see many forms as one thing? You should pursue this beyond the limit of pursuit. Accordingly, endeavors and practice realization of the way are not limited to 1 or 2 kinds. The ultimate realm has 1,000 kinds and 10,000 ways. When we think about the meaning of this, it seems that there is water for various beings, but there is no original water. There is no water common to all types of beings. But water for these various kinds of beings does not depend on mind or body, does not arise from actions, does not depend on self or other. Water's freedom depends only on water. Therefore, water is not just earth, water, fire, wind, space, or consciousness. Water is not blue, yellow, red, white, or black. Water is not form, sounds, smells, tastes, touchables, or mind objects. But water as earth, water, fire, wind, and space realizes itself. For this reason, it is difficult to say who is creating this land and palace right now, or how such things are being created. To say that the world is resting on the wheel of space or on the wheel of wind is not the truth of the self or the truth of others. Such a statement is based only on a small view. People speak this way because they think it must be impossible to exist without having a place upon which to rest. And finally, Buddha said, all things are ultimately liberated. There is nowhere that they abide. But you should know that even though all things are liberated and not tied to anything, they abide in their own phenomenal expression. However, when most human beings see water, they see only that it flows unceasingly. This is a limited human view. There are actually many kinds of flowing. Water flows on the earth, in the sky, upward, downward. It can flow through a single curve or into a bottomless abysses. When it arises, it becomes clouds. When it descends, it forms abysses. So this seems like a lot to take in and kind of perhaps confusing. But I'll just comment on a few aspects of it. There's much more here than I can possibly exhaust. But obviously there are many views of these writings, just as Dogen is talking about differing views. But I'll make some comments and with hopes of arousing some discussion and some interest in these passages. So all beings don't see things the same way. I think we know this, differing views. And for this initial section, Dogen is appealing to a writing of a 6th century Indian Buddhist philosopher, Abhabhava. And Asvabhava talked about the 4 differing views of water. He said that, well, humans just view water as water. But fish and dragons, they view water as a wonderful home, as a palace. And celestial beings, devas, they view water from above and they see the sun or the moon sparkling on the tips of the waves and see a jeweled ornament. Whereas pretas, these hungry ghost figures that are part of traditional Buddhist cosmology. A hungry ghost is someone with an insatiable appetite, but a very narrow throat and a small, small mouth, so that they cannot possibly sate their appetite. And they see water as something that arouses fiery desire, but can never satisfy. So they see water as something painful. And Dogen goes on to say that these differing views are related to causes and conditions. So if you're a fish and live in the water, it just has a lot different feel than for us land-dwelling mammals. And clearly, Dogen is not just talking about fish and about devas. Dogen is talking about us, humans. Because Dogen's essential topic throughout his writings is about humans and practice enlightenment, coming to terms with our lives. So the conditions of our lives, the experiences we've had, the causes and conditions give rise to views, opinions, our worldview. And recognizing this, there are many different ways to see things. And we all know this at some level. But we tend to get pulled into the belief that there is one right way of seeing things, one right way of viewing the world. And being pulled into that view invites the notion that other views are just wrong. But despite all these different views, Dogen says water's freedom depends only on water. It doesn't depend on all these different views of water that various beings harbor. It doesn't depend on the various categories that we place water. We place water among the elements in ancient traditions, not only in China, but in India, but also in Greco-Roman traditions, in early European traditions. Water is one of the elements, but water defies such categorization. And despite our different views of water or anything else, water and everything else occupies its Dharma position, its phenomenal position. And then, I'm sorry, that's the doorbell. I apologize for that. It'll quit in a moment. Thank you. So then Dogen goes into a discussion of origin stories. So he talks about how For this reason, it is difficult to say who is creating this land and palace right now, and how such things are being created. To say that the world is resting on the wheel of space or on the wheel of wind is not the truth of the self or the truth of others. He's referring here to an early Indian cosmology about the origin of the universe and how things are structured, about how there are wheels of, different wheels that support our Earth and support us, and how these concentric wheels support one another, wheels of wind and wheels of space, and it's a complicated cosmology that we don't need to get into. But he's saying that such statements are based on a small view. People speak this way because they think that it must be impossible to exist without having a place upon which to rest, without having a full understanding of how we got here and where we're going. So these stories arise. But the truth of our existence does not depend on these stories. And if we can't know, it's okay to not know. It's possible to exist without having a place to abide. But that being said, there is a reality out there, or in here, or all around, and we abide in our phenomenal existences. We play our part, we practice, and through the practice, experience freedom and the awareness that allows us to function skillfully. So during the past week, I've had a couple experiences. One is I attended a memorial service for a friend of ours at a St. Paul United Christian Church. And I virtually attended a funeral mass for Carol's brother. And I also went to vote the following day, on Tuesday. And these words of Dogen's spoke to me in that I could see that there are different views. We all have different views about what Dogen referred to as the great matter of life and death. And in going to vote, I'm sure not everyone was marking their cards the way I did. People have different views about the role of the state, the function of laws, the purpose of government, the extent of state power and the appropriateness of various state actions. And these views about life and death, and about government are based on causes and conditions that affect us all. And they're all limited necessarily. But somehow we can occupy our phenomenal position and fully function, fully practice amidst all these differing views. And that is what Dogen is proposing. Views are necessary. We need a viewpoint about something in order to do anything. We can't really function or function in the world without having viewpoints. But Dogen is encouraging us to realize how provisional all of these views are, and encouraging us that we can fully function and fully be in this world without necessarily having the definitive truth in our hands. In fact, we all operate this way. And realizing that, I think it does bring us back to a state of greater compassion, understanding that these differing views, these differing provisional views that we all carry around, are based on causes and conditions. And we can still live out our lives knowing their limitations and the provisional nature of views. Attending the funerals, one thing that occurred to me strongly was that the beauty of these ceremonies doesn't depend on these views, but the full power of these ceremonies is expressed in the love for the deceased individuals that you can see in abundant evidence at these services. And that is what binds us. So I'll stop there. What about Dogen's view about views? What do you find helpful here? Dogen obviously is not talking about just water and not talking about cosmological creatures. He's talking about us and the way we relate and the way we function in the world. Do you find anything in these words that rings true, that is helpful? So I think I'll stop there, and we'll go into breakout rooms. and I'll rejoin you in a few moments.